I want to also address some of the remarks that have been made characterizing our members and our leadership in the course of these negotiations by the governor and the mayor. There's been some offensive and insulting language used, such as referring to our union members and our leadership as thugs, selfish, and essentially characterizing us as being overpaid and greedy. And this is regrettable, and it is certainly unbecoming for the mayor of the city of New York to be using this type of language to the people that the New York City entrust the care of over 7 million riders every single day. So I will say this to Mayor Bloomberg. Why would you characterize the transit workers who comprise 60% of the responders to the World Trade Center disaster as thugs? We were the folks that removed hundreds of thousands of people from the subway system during the blackout not too long ago. We are the people that respond and save lives in the course of derailments and smoke conditions in the subway system. We are not thugs. And that should and it points to a problem at the MTA that apparently is shared by the city fathers and by the state fathers, which is the lack of respect for transit workers. We need a little respect, and the language that is being used is undignified and unbecoming in terms of description of public servants, and we find it extremely regrettable. To New Yorkers, your next door neighbor is the transit worker. The person in the apartment next to you, in the house next to you, is the bus driver, conductor, or train operator, the cleaner, the station agent. And we ask you to keep that in mind when you consider the type of offensive language and insulting speech being used to describe your neighbors. And we appeal to you that unlike the persons using this type of language, we are the ones that know the life of hard-working people, and not the mayor. Now, much has been said about the question of that this strike is illegal, and that it violates the Taylor law. And we have pointed out that there is a higher calling than the law, and that's justice and equality. Had Rosa Parks answered the call of the law instead of the higher call of justice, many of us who are driving buses today would still be in the back of the bus. So we want to drive the bus today with some respect, with some dignity, and that's what this contract fight is about. But I wanted to also address the certain inconsistencies, to say the least, with respect to how one views the law. Let me read a quote and then attribute that quote to you. This is I'll attribute the quote at the end of the quote. Amid old McDonald's hamburger wrappers and mouse droppings, we dragged wires from our computers to the keyboards and screens we were putting in place, stuffing the cables through holes we drilled in other people's furniture, all without permission, violating every fire law, building code, and union regulation on the books. It's amazing we didn't burn down some office or electrocute ourselves. At the end of the day, 10 or 11 o'clock at night, we turn it on and we watch what we have created come alive. It was so satisfying, unquote. Ladies and gentlemen of New York, that is a direct quote from a book called Bloomberg on Bloomberg. This was the path that Mayor Bloomberg followed on his rise to become a billionaire of the city of New York, who's now Mr. Law and Order Bloomberg. And that should be noted in terms of the inconsistency, that when you have transit workers stand up for their rights and for their dignity, that we are then called thugs, selfish, greedy, overpaid by a billionaire, right? And we have important issues that we are trying to address in this contract that go beyond the issues of pensions and wages and so on, the treatment of our members. It was Thursday night that I asked Chairman Calico, do you mean to say by your final offer that you intend to be the only major agency in this city and this state that refuses to recognize and commemorate Martin Luther King as a holiday for its employees. It was embarrassed by that fact that they subsequently offered Martin Luther King holiday some 24, 48 hours after, at their next proposals on Monday evening, they added Martin Luther King holiday to their proposals, begrudgingly, reluctantly, only after they were embarrassed by our challenge. And I say to them, we have other issues that also need to be addressed that go to the dignity and respect that transit workers are due. Last night, I was on the picket lines, walking the picket line with one of our female bus operators who reminded me that she carried her baby until the day before she delivered because of the absence of provisions and accommodations for maternity leave on this job. So she was driving a bus up until the day before she delivered. Those are critical issues that need to be dealt with in these negotiations. We have over 6,000 women on this job now, very different from how it was 15, 20 years ago. And this job needs to stop being an all-male environment run by a male-dominated board that is insensitive and unaccommodating to the needs of young women who are still rearing children on this job and who need to be given due accommodation. And there are a host of issues like these that go to how our people, how our members, transit workers are treated. And those are issues that we intend to continue to pursue in this round of negotiations, not in 2 to 3 years, not after more mothers and more children are put at risk. And we are continuing to prosecute these issues in these negotiations. And unfortunately, the MTA, by trying to focus on simply the issues of pensions, hope that all of these issues regarding the mistreatment of transit workers somehow falls off the table so that they can continue on conducting over 15 to 16,000 disciplinary actions against transit workers every day, so they can use the money, public funds, to feed that machine rather than to service the riders and to provide for the reasonable needs of employees. These are some of the overarching issues in these negotiations that go beyond wages and pensions. The treatment of transit workers is critical, and I think that the New Yorkers are seeing a glimpse of what we are talking about when you have the indignity of a mayor taken to his pulpit and characterizing our members, our hard-working members, right, who work, 6,000 of whom work in the subway tunnels every day, right, with the rats and the steel dust and the heavy industrial conditions down there, repairing and maintaining the subway system. Another 4,000 who work under the subway cars doing heavy work. And the 20,000 frontline employees that you see moving the trains, the buses, and handling the work of station agents. Our workforce is extremely diverse. It has grown. The demographics have changed. The authority has refused or failed to catch up with the needs and the adjustment needed to treat transit workers with dignity and respect. And we are getting a glimpse as to why that is the case when you look at the type of speech that Mayor Bloomberg and Governor Pataki has been utilizing in describing the current crisis in these talks.